Hello, welcome to Chit Chat and Chill. I'm Shantae, and I'm going to be the moderator for a panel discussion that we're having. Just to give you a little bit of background on what we're talking about today, we're having a panel discussion with a bunch of us. We're a friend and family group. We've been chit chat and chilling since 2015. We have different points of view. Some of us are liberals, some of us are moderate, some of us more conservative. So yes, there are you know, Biden and Trump supporters on this panel, which to us is great. We enjoy talking to each other and sharing our different points of view. And the reason that we continue to get together and do this all the time is just because we want to learn. We feel like we learn and grow from these discussions. And so the reason we're starting to share this conversation and posting it online, this is the first time we're doing that, which is awesome, is because, in this day and age, in this era where we have cancel culture and all these people trying to tell people how they should think. We feel like conversations like this with different points of view and showing different points of view amongst friends and family is important to share. So that's what we're trying to do. So with that, I want to introduce the topics that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about cancel culture, as I kind of discussed. It's something that really bothers us as a group. Of course, we're going to talk about the election that's upcoming, Trump versus Biden, maybe a little bit of Nobel Prize stuff in there around Trump. We want to talk about the state of Black America, so Black Lives Matter, maybe discuss the Breonna Taylor case a little bit. And we also want to talk about the open Supreme Court seat, RIP, RBG. And we want to end with something light, so some pop culture topic that we'll discuss later. Drop down box along with links to our other social media and our website and some other cool stuff. So with that said, I will pass the mic to LaShawn, who's going to start our first discussion around cancel culture. LaShawn, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So, why did it take us 5 years to start sharing our conversations in the first place? Because cancel culture, it's part of it. It hasn't quite been 5 years, maybe, I don't know, of cancel culture, but just in general, everybody's getting more and more sensitive to other people's opinions, and it's kind of crazy. So basically, as far as like cancel culture goes, what we're talking about is you say anything that offends anyone, and all of a sudden you are like losing your job and banned from social media, and all your followers are gone, or whatever the case may be. And I understand that for like extreme cases. I'm just gonna throw it out there and say like R. Kelly, for example. Some people deserve to be canceled. But then like just because you have a slip of the mouth or you do something when you're like 15 and now you're 40 and you learned a lesson, like it's ridiculous to say like completely cancel a person and just like throw it out there. So I don't know if anyone has any specific things that they want to discuss. The most recent example I can think of is Shaquille O'Neal and
Chuck.
yes, discussing their opinions on the Breonna Taylor case on TNT, and now people are calling for them to be fired, and they're not watching it anymore. And it's just they just express their opinions, and they did say that the Breonna Taylor case was a tragedy, but they were trying to be objective in talking about how the law was bad, and so that's why the police officers were getting off, and that the law should be changed so it doesn't happen again in the future. They never said nobody did anything wrong. They never said it was right. But just because they said they understand why the police officers got off, then they, are getting boycotted or whatever the case may be. So, like I said, I don't know if anybody else wants to talk about this, but it's just ridiculous that everyone has to be so sensitive about every little opinion. So, throwing it out there. Can't see who wants to say anything. I don't know if you can see Shantae. I can't see.
No, I didn't see anyone raise their hands. Anybody who wants to?
I'll go first.
Okay. Yeah.
I just think we in like a sensitive place. I think certain topics, I think we just sensitive now. Like, because I had the same thinking. Like, I really feel sorry for the attorney general. Like the if it's the law, like people think, I don't think people understand how the law is. Like, granted, there is some gray area here and there, but I do think like from a law standpoint, it's like if that's the law, then it's like you gotta go out and vote. And be mindful who you put in these places to get this law changed. Like I don't think we just want people to like, they did something, let's get them. Without really understanding like the due process of things and just really not understanding how stuff actually works and it don't work that way. Like, because at the same time, just being objective, they got a family too. So if you put them under jail for something that ain't right, that ain't the law, then do you want to hang them and mess their family up too? I mean, it's just you gotta like not be in an emotional place and really understand the actual case. Not saying anything was right, anything was wrong. I'm just saying it from the standpoint of that's just my opinion.
Cool. And then I saw Peter, you had your hand up, and then since I saw you had your hand up.
Yeah. So speaking more in general terms about the whole cancel culture, we're supposed to be able to say whatever we want in an open discussion. End of story. If it hurts somebody's feelings, it hurts somebody's feelings. The lesson I always tell my kids is don't let what somebody else say control you. And too many people will listen to what some stranger says and be so offended, whether they're truly offended or they're just upset for whatever reason. There's no point in giving somebody that much control over words. If somebody disagrees with me, everybody knows my views are my views. A lot of people disagree with them. That's fine by me. Doesn't hurt my feelings what your views are. So my views shouldn't hurt your feelings. I think that's what gets lost. The most of it is I'm going to say what I'm going to say. You're going to say what you're going to say. And that's that. If we agree, if we disagree, it doesn't really matter. But the whole notion that somebody says something, all of a sudden it's the end of the world, especially when it takes out of context, or what somebody says or posts when they're in high school, like, and then all of a sudden they're 20, 30 years old. You mean to sit there and tell me that you didn't say or do something stupid when you were a child or when you were a kid? Of course you did. We all did. No, anybody that says, "Oh, I never said anything wrong or improper when I was a kid," is a flat out liar. Everybody does. So the fact that we're sitting there going back, reading somebody's timeline from when they were in high school and holding them to that is just silly to me. So I appreciate having these conversations where you can say something openly in a conversation and you're going to listen to that person and you're going to flat out disagree. Like, what the hell is this guy talking about? And realize it's not the end of the world. So.
Agreed. Tino?
I think I'm just at this point piggybacking on what Peter and said. I'm an advocate for all speech. I mean, I don't believe that any speech should be regulated. I forgot where I read it or some article or whatever, but it said, free speech, like even the hate speech, it's the price you pay for living in a free society. All speech should be protected, whether we like it or not. I'm not saying that arguments shouldn't be challenged. They should. And, just there's proper channels to do it. I don't think anybody should be necessarily canceled for the way they speak. Actions are a different story. I think the issue here is that people have lost the means to be objective and approach things objectively, and they feel that their feelings are more important than the rule of law or what the law is or what society should accept as acceptable.
Okay. So does anyone have like a different point of view or a different topic they want to bring up? That's like slightly. All right. Oh, okay. Wes.
It's not really necessarily different. I'm not against people being like, not necessarily for or against. I think everything is, case by case as far as like people getting canceled, quote unquote. But my thing is like, the reason cancel culture in theory exists is because you have people who are in power who can basically slander others and then not suffer any consequences for it. And then on top of that, you're feeding into it by paying their salary through advertising or whatever. So when people say they're going to cancel somebody, they really just want to say, hey, look, I want to take my money from this person. I don't want to support that. And that's different than like, I don't know, it's effectively like a boycott sort of situation. Do I want? And it's kind of similar with the Breonna Taylor thing when people say, "Hey, look, why are we spending all of our money to militarize police and they can come and kill you and there's no consequences?" Like, that's coming out of tax money. And even if there's the $12 million settlement, that's still coming out of tax money. So there needs to be some sort of repercussion there. And I think when cancel culture in its perfect world, is just saying, hey, look, we're going to reallocate our funding from these people because we don't agree with what they're doing, which is the American way. Like, if you don't like something, you just, remove your money from it.
I agree. In a perfect world, it would be like people just trying to like say, you know what, let's not fund such and such. So let's stop watching the NFL, whatever the case may be. But really, it's just a whole lot of talk and smoke, and then nothing really comes of it half the time because people still keep buying whatever they want to buy or watching whatever they want to watch because I'm sorry, we're spoiled Americans and that's what we do. But in a perfect world, you would just go ahead, you would have that discussion or you would have that movement of canceling. And I could understand, again, if it in extreme cases or even not extreme cases, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But it's getting to the point where like people are calling out like 14 and 15-year-old children and putting them on blast. And that is insane. Like, that's way too far. Or trying to cancel people for stuff they did 20 or 30 years ago. That's still not really fair because the world has changed a lot in the last 15, 20, 30 years. Like, stuff you could say back then, even like in comedy. For example, Kevin Hart, people getting real sensitive about stuff he said. Comedy back then was so different than the things that people tolerate now. Unless you're Dave Chappelle, you don't care and you keep doing your comedy and you're still great. But like, to keep trying to go back in time for things that people did a gazillion years ago. I mean, I think that's where it's getting a little like too far. Again, unless it's something extreme, like Santino said, if it's like actions where you're actually physically harming people and then you get caught 20 years later, okay. But if we're talking about tweets, like, yeah, that's just a bit much.
All right. The one thing I did want to say and about this topic, which before we move on to the next topic, just made me crazy. The example I saw was, and I don't even listen to Joe Rogan or his podcast or anything like that, but I saw a post that he signed a contract with Spotify, and then the Spotify employees decided they wanted to strike, or they might strike because they want him censored, like on a podcast. I was like, is this not America? Like, I agree with what Wes and LaShawn said. Like, in a perfect world, that's what cancel culture was probably set up for. Cancel your money, move it elsewhere. But it's getting crazy. This is America. It's free speech. It's a podcast. Are you seriously talking about censorship at the level of like corporate on a strike? Like, that to me, that blew my mind. And then also just wanted to talk a little bit more about like the fact that we didn't even want to have this conversation and post it online because we were like, we're going to get canceled or we might get fired from our jobs. And some people who are normally part of this discussion aren't even here for that reason, which sucks to me. And it's really frustrating that we have to even worry about that because we should be able to have these conversations in America. We have a right to free speech, and the fact of the matter is we're not protected. And that sucks. And that really bothers me about this culture. Sorry, P, I saw you wanted to say one more thing too.
No, Santino was first.
Well,
Cliff was first. Okay.
I will say, some of this cancel culture, it starts from the top down, though. I mean, people are vilified for disagreeing with other people. I mean, you look at your political leaders, and like I said, top down. If somebody has a different opinion or a different way to do things, then the other person is evil. They're dumb. They're not like us. Leave, go somewhere else. Go. You're not. So you vilify people for disagreeing or having a different opinion, and it just filters down because you can see it everywhere. Anytime somebody has a different opinion or a different approach, they're this name, they're that name. They're not like you. They're not like us. So when you create that mindset in people, I mean, it leads to where we are now. So you can't have different opinions because that opinion or that way is evil. It's wrong, And I mean, we're too sensitive. But it's really games being played, you know. People for their own reasons and you know gain like this division, and they like you know they like this where we're at now with this cancel culture because we're creating sides on every issue and we're split. So there you go.
It's frustrating. Tino and then Peter.
So, I mean, I just wanted to go back. I think it was LaShawn that was talking about it regarding like, oh no, I'm sorry, that was you with corporations. You know, the whole like social media giants with their attempts at regulating speech is a major issue with all of this. You know, I was telling one of my friends yesterday how, you know, I'm not on Twitter because somehow my account got banned from by Twitter. They blocked my email address. Like, I don't know if you guys remember when they did this blanket, like, oh, we removed all these Russian trolls off Twitter. Well, my Twitter account was part of that group. And I never posted anything trolly. I just happened to support like certain people retweeting certain, you know, certain groups. And like I go to use Twitter and it's gone. You know, and I got, you know, I appealed it, and guess what? I never even got a response with the appeal. Nothing.
That's
You know, and I feel like that's an issue. And, you know, it's kind of like you're caught between a rock and a hard case here with, you know, maintaining American like values, if you will, because, yeah, you know, the private company has every right to, you know, regulate what they want on their platform. But at the same time, this is America, you know, and how does the government go and deal with that? You know, because ultimately, if the government goes and attacks Twitter, Facebook, etc., you know, that's borderline government control, which, you know, as a conservative, I have issues with. But at the same time, you know, individuals in this country have protected right for speech. You know, like I said, rock and a hard case. I don't know how. I honestly don't know how to address that issue without betraying at least a part of who we're supposed to be.
that was good timing. It was like almost exactly 2 minutes. So Peter and then Wes.
Yeah. So going back on that, the big difference is Twitter and Facebook being a publisher or a platform. They're classified as a platform, but they're acting more like a publisher. So that's how so now they have different tax breaks. They have different regulations based on how they're being classified. So if they want to be a publisher, which is how they're acting, then they should be reclassified in what they're allowed to do. So I have no problem going after a supposed platform like Twitter or Facebook when they start actually doing all those restrictions, because that's not what they're supposed to be doing. They're not supposed to be doing those being on those same platforms as a publisher. So I don't have any issues with the government going and say, okay, well, we're going to reclassify you now as a publisher since that's how you're acting.
Mm. Wes.
My last thing about it too is just I just want to make the distinction that like when we talk about freedom of speech, we're not talking about like censoring a person. I'm censoring you, you're censoring me. Freedom of speech, like as defined, is the government censoring something. So if a platform wants to do it, unfortunately they can. It's stupid. It is what it is. But yeah, the government coming and saying like, oh, you can't say that is a totally different thing than like Twitter just being dicks. Like that's just, you know, I didn't know Tino was a Russian troll. That's hilarious.
Amazing.
And yeah, and like I still don't like I think our conversations too in general are much more lighthearted and funny, and everybody do be having jokes and stuff. And there was like 7 or 8 jokes already that I was like, yo, I would make that. And so I do appreciate the format. And like earlier you was getting us ready to go. And I'm like, Jasmine, you said Jasmine was your PR person. And I was like, she is Puerto Rican. And then she goes off. It's just how we do this. So you know, I want to get there too. I don't want people to think that like we CNN. We ain't CNN. Like unless it's Capone and Nori.
Thank you. And then Jansen said, Aunt, you had raised your hand. I missed it. Sorry. Aunt.
Oh yeah. Okay, my bad. I think one of the main word it comes out that we're all one of the main words that's coming to mind after hearing everybody speak is like narrative, like controlling the narrative of everything, like controlling like what we can, but like it's the media, and I wouldn't say it. It's the media mind screw. Like I've learned. I've been watching the media, and it's like they screw our minds to make us believe. And it's the media. Like you know what I really want to say? I'm trying to be politically correct. Be like
Fake
record.
news.
Nah, it ain't even that, bro. It's fake news. But it's like the media mind screw. I'm trying to be political, but it's the media mind. Like they with our
You can
minds.
curse, Anthony. Curse
It's
all
the
you
me-
want.
it's the media mind fuck. I hope my mom ain't here. It's the media mind fuck, right? And I truly believe like it's the narrative on what they want us to believe and not think for ourselves and not to have these opinions, but to lead us all into one like to divide so that these people will believe this is what the media says without seeing. Because I've seen it's a documentary that said documentary on Netflix about social media, and it said that fake news hits more than real news.
Right.
Like, what type of shit is that? And it's like nobody's going to actually go and find out. And that's the one word, the one phrase that I'm getting from all this is controlling the narrative. And it's the mind.
LaShawn.
Oh, he makes a good point. Like the media is a problem because it divides people. So there's the people only watching Fox, and then there's the people only watching CNN, and no one wants to watch boring ass PBS. But they're probably like try at least to be, a little more bipartisan. So the media is kind of like playing into that because you get to sit and watch all day someone spew your opinion back to you instead of just making up, your own opinion. And obviously, people should think for themselves. But unfortunately, we live in a world where a lot of people just don't. Like they just believe what they hear and they just go along with it.
Yeah. So, Cliff, are you okay if I let Erin say something because she hasn't said anything yet, and then you could
Sure.
go?
I was just saying.
All right, Erin had to drop for a moment. We had some technical difficulties there. Cliff, did you want to talk a little bit about what you were thinking around?
I was just want to, piggyback on what Ant said. I mean, about, the mind fuck, but you got to think about why it's a mind fuck, because whether it's social media, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Fox or MSNBC, it's all about advertising. It's all about dollars. And what do they get paid for? You watching, you continue to watch, you continue to click. So you stay on that platform, you watch because they give you, and they keep feeding you what they think you want to hear. And so that again goes back to you can't disagree because, they don't want to show you different sides because then you might leave, then you might go somewhere else. Then they lose you, they lose those dollars. So, I mean, it's you can blame the media, but it really boils back down to, us being uninformed, us being lazy, us being used and manipulated and not doing anything about it. And, you can't, government ain't going to save you all the time. So, I don't know where we're headed, to be honest with this, because it's only going to get worse. So
I hope not. Ugh.
Hey, it's money involved. I mean, it's not going to stop.
Yeah. And
Jack, you finna go? Okay. I agree, man. Like, it's just gonna get worse. People don't seek to understand. Like, you know what I'm saying? They don't really actually go out to seek to understand. Like, they just actually if you tell them, oh man, this is really going on. Look at my new social media. Like, if people, they're like, look at my social media feed. Like, look at this, what's going on right now. This is what's going on. And you be like, yo, that was 2 years ago, bro. That ain't what's going on right now. Like, yo, that's a whole different, yo, it's sunny outside. Yo, this one is dark outside. You know, yo, it's a whole different ball game out there, bro. But because like nobody is taking an interest in actually seeking to understand, that's why I say I feel sorry for bro. Cause like on some real shit, like regardless of anything, like he stand up there and he got to live with this and he got to get all the backlash for whatever he did and everything like that. And I don't want that attorney general job. Fuck that shit. But like to actually be there and then people not really seeking to understand the law and to be informed. And if it's not what we want to hear, like that's what they was talking about in the documentary. Like we believe what we like. This is Like we believe the own truth. Like this, if we don't seek to understand, we believe what we see here. You know what I'm saying? So to actually seek to understand is to actually be like, yo, look, yo, let me find out what this law is about. Let me find out the no knock order. Let me find out what they had. Let me find out what was really going. What's the laws of Kentucky? Let me find out all this stuff. We don't.
Right.
We believe what somebody tell us, and that's the goddamn problem.
Yeah, no, I agree. Aaron, did you want to? Oh, go ahead.
I'll say I'll just I'll finish off the cancer culture thing with I'm always for listening to what somebody else has to say, because I mean they clearly bring in something else to the table that I either didn't see or don't understand, because that's not my perspective, that's not my experience. So if somebody believes something, thinks something, does something, like with this Breonna Taylor thing, I mean listening isn't going to hurt, So if you can listen and if they can bring valid facts or opinions or just a different perspective that you may not agree with, but makes some kind of sense, then why they need to get all up in arms, I mean, why they need to cancel. I mean, if you want to cancel somebody, you can cancel somebody who comes with something that's totally off the wall, and they have no reasons, no facts, nothing to back it up. It's just one of those people that I believe it because I believe it, and I mean, but again, hey, if you believe what you believe, and I mean, if you really believe something, though, what somebody else says or does shouldn't really bother you or make you feel the need to cancel somebody, because you know why you believe it. So somebody else challenging you shouldn't really push you to cancel them, unless you're just weak in what you really believe. So.
Aaron, did you want to try to do a mic check? Okay.
Don't be scared.
All right. Is this better?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Did you want to chime in, or are you good?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. So that, I think, wraps up.
I think Peter wanted to say something.
Yeah. So this ties kind of in with our other two topics. And when you start talking about like the media, what they're doing, and all they're doing, they've been doing it. They really push it. They do it all the time, but they really push it during election year. They'll push a narrative, get people up in arms, and they have you jumping at a small clip without the whole facts. And it keeps tying kind of in with the Breonna Taylor stuff and other stuff as well. You'll have bits and pieces of the truth without knowing the whole truth. And all they're doing is getting your emotions caught up. So now you're invested in the first bit that you heard. And emotionally, you're invested. So when the facts come out, you don't care about it. And the media knows that, because your emotions tell you this is exactly what happened. I know what happened from this little clip. And then they know they have you. So they continuously redo it. They continuously do it, and they push whatever narrative. It's when people who step back, wait for facts to come out, and then form. You can kind of get an idea in your mind of, okay, I think this is probably what happens. But when all the facts actually come out, being prepared to move off of your stance is key. And a lot of people don't want to do that. They get emotionally involved, and they start seeing a pattern, or they'll start making a pattern, even if there's not a pattern there, and they get hooked in it and they just run with it. So they know, the media definitely knows what they're doing, because it's working for them, and it's working for the political parties, whatever side they might be, on pushing that agenda to do exactly what they want to do.
And I'm not gonna lie, I got emotionally involved with the Breonna Taylor. I did. I got hooked in that. I just was so frustrated with the first fact that I heard of, like, her being shot and the way she was shot. All of that, I was emotionally a wreck, and it was really hard for me to take a step back and talk about that. But Cliff, I saw you wanted. Did you want to say something about cancel culture? Or
I was just curious about the Breonna Taylor thing. I was actually curious to see what everybody thought. I mean, I didn't hear what Shaq and I take it Chuck, because they're the two different mindsets on the panel. But I mean, I know, the what happened didn't surprise me at all. I mean, it's more so the law, it looks like. And then you had, two versions, two stories, which could be true in this case, where, the boyfriend could have, he probably didn't hear the knock. If there was a knock, we don't know, but he could have knocked. He couldn't have, maybe he didn't hear it. He should be fired. He has the right to fire. police are fired at, they have the right to fire back. I mean, so, them saying they announced themselves and him saying he didn't hear it, both sides can be true. So we don't know which side. I mean, both can be true. My main issue, and the one cop who fired recklessly was fired. And he's the one that was, hit with charges. That's what I expected from the get-go, and it was what happened. My only issue, though, is the boyfriend was arrested that night. And whoever it was that brought him up on charges was very dirty in the way she did that. She purposely led him down the road. He didn't wait for an attorney because he didn't have anything to hide. He went and talked to her, which you should never do because clearly they're not on your side. You should never trust a prosecutor. So he talked to her though because he really, acted in self-defense, it appears. And she did everything in her power to make sure he got charged and locked up. And then she did everything in her power to let the cops off because in all the statements you read, she was leading their testimonies and leading their statements and correcting things to make them get off. So she's the dirty one in this whole thing. She's the one that people should be up in arms about because, again, you could have two sides be true where the boyfriend shouldn't be charged, the cops, maybe they shouldn't be charged except for the one. But here's this lady that was purposely trying to destroy a life. She was trying to destroy his life and send him to jail. And what's happening to her? Because, again, you get one life and somebody's out here trying to destroy it. That's some evil, spiteful stuff.
I agree. And Tino, I saw you raise your hand, but do you mind if I say something real quick? Just back to what I was saying when Peter first kind of went into this topic. I was so frustrated by what happened because even when I started to read the objective points of view, it's nothing made sense. It was like, oh, we had been watching her for a while, and they were like sitting in the parking lot. So you knew she was on date night with her boyfriend. You knew her boyfriend was a registered firearm owner. You knew that she and he were there because what you said in a different statement was that you were expecting to encounter an unarmed female, and yet you did all of this at midnight with a battery ram. Like, nothing makes sense to me. And I understand the no-knock warrant, and you're supposed to catch someone by surprise, blah, 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 blah. But just how it was executed was poor. I saw that they were supposed to have an ambulance around just in case, because you never know when you're doing a no-knock warrant. It's kind of dangerous. You don't know who's there, who's going to shoot, who's going to shoot back. They didn't have that. She didn't have any medical treatment for, they said, 20 minutes. It's like, what the hell? And I understand the dude got charged because he shot through the wall. He shouldn't have. He killed her. But like you said, why was the boyfriend charged with murder? And then, they dropped the charges. But what the hell? The 911 call, he did that. That was immediate. Like you said, he had nothing to hide. I was just so frustrated by how that all went down. I get that, like, legally laws weren't broken and all of that. But I was still just so frustrated. Like I said, my first thought was, what if it wasn't her? What if it was like a baby behind that wall? And it was just such a mess of an poorly executed no-knock warrant. And it just really frustrated me emotionally. I don't care about the facts and stuff like that. Like I said, when I got emotionally invested in that, it was hard to step back because I didn't even want to read about it after I saw how they messed up when they were trying to put it all back together afterwards. I was like, I still am angry. Like, yeah, he acted in self-defense and technically no laws were broken, but what the hell, man? Like, what were you guys doing that night? Ugh. Anyway.
Hey guys, my name is Jasmine. I'm one of the panelists from Chit Chat and Chill. If you like what you saw, please give this video a thumbs up. Make sure you comment down below. Remember, have open and honest conversations. That's what we're trying to do here. Don't disrespect each other. Everyone has different opinions. It's cool. Share the video with people that you think would like it, and even with people that you think might not like it. Expand the mind, This is one installment on a 4-hour Zoom call that we had pertaining to all the topics that Shantae in the beginning talked about. This is about cancel culture in specific, as you saw. Please stay tuned for our next 2 videos that will be dropping this week. They're both about Breonna Taylor. The first one is a separate Zoom conversation that happened between our guest speaker, Matito, and one of our panelist, Shayla, who could not make this phone call. And then the second video is another portion of the Zoom call that you just saw here. So please stay tuned for those. Remember, guys, it's okay if you have a difference of opinions. That's what America's all about, you know? So again, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe and stay tuned. Also, go in the drop box down below. You will find all of our social media sites. You'll find our Instagram and our Facebook. You'll also find our website where you can, you know, be kept up to date if you don't follow us on here. A good day, guys. Bye.